Today's video is about German rolls. We Germans really love our rolls. We have them for breakfast, and it's not difficult to bake them if you know the technique, and that is something I want to show you today. So usually I don't go over the ingredients since I think it's boring. However, I will make a little exemption today. I have 500 grams of flour, I have 300 milliliters of cold water, I have 15 grams of yeast, some salt, a little bit of sugar, and a very important ingredient is this one, which you might not have at home right now. So this is malted barley flour. So this is important for the taste and also has some benefits for the rising of the yeast, and it also gives the rolls a little bit more of a good color. Now the first thing I'm doing is I add like half of the amount of water that I have to the bowl, and I take my yeast and I crumble the yeast into the water. Okay, and then I start to whisk it until the entire yeast has dissolved into the water. And something that is different than usually when I make a yeast dough is that this water is actually cold, or it has room temperature. It is not warm water. Usually I use warm water for every other of my yeast doughs, so this is a little bit different. Okay, and now I add the entire flour, and it's very important that you use the flour first and then add some salt. I actually use a teaspoon or more, and also a tiny little bit of sugar, not much, and then I use 1 teaspoon of the malted barley flour, and you can get this at Amazon. It's not expensive, but it's really crucial to the taste and to the chemistry of this dough, so don't leave it out. I will put a link somewhere beneath this video so you can find out which one I used and where to get it at Amazon. So now I start with mixing it, and while I'm mixing it I will slowly add more water, but I will not add all the water. I will be very careful and in between check if my dough has the right consistency. Just put some of the flour more to the middle. Just grab it a little bit on the sides. And it's very important that the dough doesn't get too wet. has been mixed a little bit, and I want to show you the difference between a shortly mixed dough and a decent mixed dough. So if I pull this apart, you can see that this is ripping off and it's not holding very much of my pulling here. Let me show this again. So I pull this and you see it immediately breaks apart. There's no elasticity here, and to get this elasticity I need the gluten that is created when water and flour get together. So this is the reason why I will mix this for another 10 to 12 minutes now. So if you don't have a mixer like this and you have to knead it by hand, it takes longer, like about 20 minutes. And I will show you at the end of the kneading process how the dough is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to behave like, so you know when you're done with your kneading. Okay, so I had this on medium speed for 12 minutes, and let me take some flour. I want to show you the elasticity of this dough now. So I take a little bit of it and let me just pull this apart, and you see it's not breaking immediately. It has a lot of elasticity, and that's what we need for our rolls. So you can see, well, let me knead this a little bit together. Alright, so here we go. And I will give it a short knead by hand now. Oops, and it comes easily off the bowl. This is tight. Okay. And I just do this on my kitchen island here. And it feels very nice and smooth. It's a very good dough. Very easy to use. And in my next step, I need to let it rest, because the whole kneading process puts some stress on the dough. And if I wanted to use it right now, like if I want to pull it apart, you see it's coming right back into its previous shape. It's not good for shaping anything right now. So that's why I will just leave it here on the countertop, and I will cover it. You can put some flour on top and put a kitchen towel on top. I have this special linen fabric for bakers that I got on Amazon, and I will cover it with this just for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, this has rested now for 10 minutes, and now I will just weigh it. Let me first tar it to see how much dough I have. It's 807 grams. So if I want to make 10 rolls, they should be all about like 80 grams. Okay, so it's important to have the same size, at least roughly about the same size, so that the rolls are baked evenly and that they're done at the same time. Okay, 82. Let's see. 83. 85. Let's go with it. And sometimes I just make 9 rolls. So it's not 1 single gram that's making the difference, but it should be roughly about the same weight, so they all have the same size later. 92, 94. So the rest dough I will just divide to the rest of the dough parts here. Okay, now let me show how I shape the rolls. I take some of the dough and I make a hollow hand and I start rolling the dough in my hollow hand, just like that. And after a while, I have this wonderful round shape. And that's what I'm going to do with all of my dough parts. Looks nice, doesn't it? And it's really important that when you start making the dough, you don't use all the water at once, because if the dough is too sticky, you will have to add some flour. And if you add some flour, the whole ingredient amount changes. And so baking is basically chemistry, and you really want to stick to the weights and the amount of water. And I'm sure that some people wonder how many cups this all is, and I'll be honest to you, I will not use any cup measurement in this recipe because it's just not accurate enough, and your flour in a cup might not have the same weight that it has if you really put it on a scale. And these scales, I mean, they are really cheap. You can get them for less than $5 at Walmart, so it's not really a big investment. And I really recommend getting a scale if you want to cook and bake like a German, because precision is basically a part of our cooking process. Oh, this one will not. Maybe a little bit too small. Sometimes it don't really fit into my hand because the dough is too small. You can also make larger rolls. I like them a little bit smaller. And if you buy them at the grocery, they are usually quite large. This is part to the reason that they put a lot of chemistry into the dough to keep it from sticking to the machines. And this is a real all natural dough that I made, so it will not blow up the rolls like it does sometimes if you buy them. And there are fewer and fewer bakeries in Germany that really make their rolls from scratch. Many of them just get the dough ready from somewhere, which is sad because they all have, you know, their very different kind of taste, and you know, depending on what you like, you prefer this bakery over another bakery and would buy your rolls there because to you they tasted better. And now it's all tasting the same because they're all getting their dough from the same deliverer. Yeah, that is really a loss. Okay, so I have my rolls here now. And yeah, like before, they have to rest again for 5 minutes. I will cover them again, and in 5 minutes I will show you how I finish the shaping. While my rolls are resting, I want to show you how I preheat my oven. First of all, this might look weird, but this is an old baking pan that I got at the thrift store, and I have some stones, some little rocks in there, and I will put this in my oven on the lowest possible rack, and I will preheat my oven to the highest temperature that I have. Just go there, and I hope you can see that. So I put this on the lowest rack, and now I put my oven on the highest temperature that I can do on my oven and preheat this oven really hot, so that when I start baking it I can lower it, but don't lose the high temperature that I need to make these rolls really nice and let them rise and bake perfectly. Back to the rolls. They have rested another 5 minutes, and I will take one of these now and I will just make it a little bit flat with my hand like this, and then I flip it over like this and start to softly roll it on the bottom side, on the side where I have this this little rift. And I will put all of my rolls on my linen, and you can use a towel that is dusted with some flour, and I will put this with this rift on the, oh, you can't see that here, let me see, there you can see it. I put it with this rift on the bottom, and then I take the next one, do the same thing, press it flat, flip it over, give it a little roll, and put it here in some distance so they don't stick together if they rise. So next one, same procedure, and I continue doing it like that. And the last one. Now I cover this again and let it rest for 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. In the meantime, I let the oven preheat and get really hot, so I didn't start the preheating too early. It really takes a longer time. The oven should be preheating like for about 45 minutes to an hour. 30 minutes have passed and my rolls are ready to bake now. I will take them off this fabric and put them on my baking sheet, and this time I'm putting them with the rift upside, because this is where I want them to break apart when they are baking. Okay, and in case you wonder, I'm reusing this parchment paper because you can use it more than once. The rolls will go into the oven, and I have reduced the temperature to 475 degrees, and I will put these wonderful rolls in the oven, and before I close the door I will add 50 milliliters of water, and this water will be poured over the stones that I put into the oven at the very beginning, and this produces some humidity in the oven, and from this humidity these rolls will not dry out during the baking process. This is very important, and at the last 2 minutes before they are finished with baking, I will open the oven and let the steam out, so that in the last 2 minutes these rolls become very nice and crisp on the outside. So here we go. I open the door, put the rolls in. I will quickly get this out a little bit. Now I use the 50 milliliters of water, pour them in there and quickly close the door. And I will also reduce the heat to 425 degrees Fahrenheit and put the timer on, let's say, 17 minutes. So about a minute has already passed and the rolls have grown a little bit in their size, and they will continue to grow for a couple of more minutes. Now about 2 minutes have passed. You can clearly see that the rolls are bigger now, and some of them already break in the middle. That's just what I want. Now this is what they look like after 4 minutes. 8 minutes have passed. You can see the rolls are clearly a lot larger than before, and they start to get a little bit of a brown color, and they will not grow much more now. Instead, at the very last, they will start to shrink a tiny little bit because they are losing some of their humidity, some of their moisture, but that's okay. There are only 4 minutes of baking time left, and you can see they are clearly a little bit smaller than they were just a few minutes ago. And I will give them 2 more minutes before I open the oven and let the steam out, and then I will bake them for another 2 minutes. And it really depends on your oven. I have a convection oven now, and so things sometimes go a little bit faster. If you have a traditional oven with just the heat from below or from above, then it might take a little longer. You have to figure it out by yourself. I can't really help you with that. But for my convection oven, if I really heat it very, very well, I need about 17-18 minutes for the baking of the rolls. And you might need like 2 or 3 minutes more. Just figure it out. If they get a really nice brownish color, they should be almost done. So like you can see it right now. So I want you to see how the steam gets out of the oven. So I will open the door and you can see the steam comes out of the oven. This is all visible here. And then I close it again and give it 2 more minutes. Okay. Let's see. Let's get them out. 2 of them did not open, but that's okay. And this is what it looks like. Voila. And they're nice and crisp and very hot. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you try to make these rolls, and if you really like this, please follow this video channel. And don't forget, give it a thumbs up.